Hello, everybody, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for March 4th, 2025. It's Season 4, Episode 63. I didn't put any of these show notes into Omatron because this is a Time Machine episode, and I'm going to be putting them over. Well, they're already on the YouTube channel for the live stream. They'll be there when we make it not a live stream. I don't know how to describe that. Anyway, Finding channels on YouTube are odd, and this Twitch drops things every 60 days. Anyway, I really should just be doing the damn intro and not rambling. I am Mayor Watt. I run ohmtown.com. I use it to manage my information overload, and I give talks about it every day. The 10 articles that we're talking about today are California bar exam continued. It is a fiasco. And it's just getting more fiasco-ier. InterneTV, the SS Princess TipSea. First came the woolly mouse. Law office of Fenton, Florida, and bar. ABRDN rebrand, not clever. Old Iceberg says I'm moving in. Friday surgeries are riskier. And there's a typo in that. Oh boy. And your smartwatch knows you well, maybe too well. And metal containers save Avalanche victims. Everything is powered by ohmtown.com and my general laziness. All right, folks. Like I said, I am Mayor Watt. I run ohmtown.com. And usually with the Sentient AI, we do 10 articles every single day, and on weekends we do 3 shows of 5 articles each within a particular domain. 3 different domains on Saturday, 3 different ones on Sunday, and then it merges into the Non Sequitur News weekend editions, so Saturday and Sunday. Anyway, we make sure that we put content out every single day, unless Mayor Watt gets pulled away, and that's what happened yesterday. So this is a Time Machine episode, and I got about an hour. I'm going to do this really quick, though. Save you a whole bunch of time and get you through these articles. Some of these are really, really hilarious, though. So California kind of went through an issue here about the California bar, and let's just say it's getting apparently worse. So California bar exam fiasco considers adding even more chaos. You know, it's worse than a disastrous rollout of a hastily thrown together bar exam overhaul, rolling out a hastily thrown together bar exam retreat. Just when you thought the California bar exam disaster had reached its logical conclusion, after all, how much worse could it get? The Cal bar examiners appear poised to answer that question by slamming the brakes on a new hybrid test format and going back to an in-person only exam. Joe Patrice over at AboveTheLaw.com put the article together, and I find this really, really interesting. Starting to wonder how this institution went broke in the first place is what it says. To rewind, the California bar examiners recognized woefully late that the crushing costs of the testing procedure had driven the institution into the red. The National Conference of Bar Examiners historically provides testing materials for fees that somehow result in a nonprofit amassing $175 million in total assets, and sets the conditions for in-person testing that force the state to rent out massive, costly venues and force applicants to drag themselves across the state and book costly hotel rooms. Yeah, it's quite fascinating. So anyway, not even going to get into some of this stuff, but in a memo dated, apparently it says tomorrow, time is relative, the state's licensing authorities proposed junking measure learning and returning to in-person testing in July. It doesn't really matter what measure failed because it wasn't up to the task or rushed time frame rendered success impossible. For either case, someone should have been able to raise a hand months ago and say, hey guys, this is probably going to explode. So sure, the impulse to cut ties with measure is measurable, I'd say. But then what? At its February 21st meeting, the Board of Trustees received an update describing several of the challenges leading up to the administration of the February 2025 bar exam. The board heard significant public comment expressing concern about the functionality of the measure learning platform, as well as the platform or problems with scheduling and miscommunication. The board was going to ask to approve additional funding for the contract with Measure Learning for the July administration. However, as a result of the events that occurred in the administration of the February bar, still underway as of the writing of the staff report, staff cannot recommend going forward with Measure Learning. Staff are instead recommending returning to in-person administration method used prior to February 2025. Unbelievable. So, higher costs for the examiners, the higher costs for the applicants, and remember, the estimate cost of in-person administration of the bar exam is $4.8 to $5 million. Actual costs might be higher, as we're anticipating increased numbers of test takers due to the offer to waive the July exam costs for many applicants. So, the full year fiscal impact of the transition back to in-person testing will be compounded by the expanded refund policies put in place with respect to the February 2025 exam. Wild. They say down at the very end, while staff believes that the 2025 admissions fund budget can absorb all related costs, sustainability planning for 2026 and beyond must begin in the near term. So they're talking about 2026 in 2025. This is supposed to be the host for all of this. Oh boy. Anyway, found it kind of interesting and wanted to talk about it. Let's keep on going though. There's more in each of these articles that we talk about, so definitely go on over there and check it all out. Again, it's Joe Patrice over at AboveTheLaw.com. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News. The internet is just TV now. That's pretty much what I've been saying for the last 10 years, 15 years. Philadelphia Eagles celebrating during the November 14th game against the Washington Commanders, the event that generated more internet traffic than anything else, in the last 3 months of 2024. That is the caption for a picture that we're about to see. It's over at Business Insider. Peter Kafka put the article together. And this is all about the fact that the internet is rapidly destroying TV because it gives people more ways to spend their time for less money. Except the thing that commands the most live attention on the internet is the same thing that commands the most attention on TV. NFL games. And cats. And buying stuff. And just streaming stuff. I spend most of my time streaming Twitch and YouTube than watching sports in general or going out to see sports and ever. So, yeah. Two things can be true at the same time. The internet has atomized the way that we absorb information, entertainment, and culture, which means that we all exist in our own bubbles of interest and affiliation. Exactly. And the internet is very good at showing lots of people the same thing lots of people used to consume before the internet existed, which means we're all still watching the same things we used to watch on TV, except that we're getting it through the internet, which used to be part and parcel to the distribution of the internet. Coax cable was the way to get internet into your house, and then you broke it off into TV and telephone and internet. So it says, here's evidence of the second thing, a list of the top entertainment. So NFL on Prime, the fight on Netflix, NFL Week 7 on ESPN, NFL Week 8 on Prime, so on and so forth. That's the Q4 2024 US ranked top traffic. So yeah, I mean, we're basically paying, and now ads are being injected into the stream. So even when you're paying, you have to pay more now, and you can't skip ads. You can't fast forward and stuff like that. Sometimes you can get around it. There's always ways, but anyway, I'm paying just as much. Actually, I'm paying more now a month than I ever did for just regular old TV. But I have some control over what I get to see. And there's a lot of options. I could turn off, YouTube TV at a moment's notice. All right, let's keep going, though. The next article is over in Four Wheel Tech. High winds caused Princess TipSea to flip. But the real title is High winds caused Princess cruise ship to tilt, dumping out swimming pools and injuring 16 people. The Crown Princess cruise ship tilted 14 degrees under heavy winds alone. The article is over at Jalopnik by Lawrence Hodge. Yeah, so there's video. It's apparently on YouTube, 9 News via YouTube, but the wind blew the Princess Cruises ship Crown Princess over 14 degrees. Guests were shaken up, as well as with 16 of the 3,090 people on board suffering injuries because of the tilt. Martin Wise, one of the passengers on board, detailed what was going on to New Zealand site Stuff as the Crown Princess tilted 14 degrees. Quote, I felt the boat starting to slant and tip. Then it leant over quite a bit and really started moving along at a high speed, and we could see the sea looking very high out of the restaurant windows, and crashing could be heard around the lounge, and a huge crash from the kitchen. And there's video. So rough ride, folks. Like always, you can always go over and check it all out. Here's the video. I'll mute it. Oh, it's already muted. Oh, here is an ad. Hey, yay. Woo. All right. So let's hurry up and get to it. Whoa. Wow. That's a bowling alley of a galley. Jeepers creepers. Yeah, you got to keep watching all these pots floating around, flying around. The pool getting dumped out. But it's an ocean liner. I'm pretty sure that the pool will get filled back up, I suppose. Just put some salt water in it. I'm sure it's fine. Oh, no. Lots of messes to clean up. Oh, no. All these sandwiches and stuff. Oh, gosh. It's just a nightmare. Y'all can't hear it, but the video is basically showing all of this food dumped out of the kitchen all over the place. All they can do really is stabilize it and then clean it all up. It all sucks. Let's keep going. Next article is over in the Mobile Channel. Biotech company creates woolly mouse as a step in its quest to resurrect a woolly mammoth through gene editing. Colossal Biosciences. Leaders say that the fluffy golden-haired mice help validate their technique to de-extinct species, but outside scientists remain skeptical. Sarah Kudo over at Smithsonian Magazine, or SmithsonianMag.com, put the article together. And it says, Texas-based startup Colossal Bioscience announced this week that it had produced woolly mice, or rodents that its scientists had genetically engineered to have thick, fluffy, mammoth-like hair. In addition to a press release, the company described the research in a preprint server on Tuesday that it had not yet been, peer-reviewed. So they basically genetically modified something so that it would have, as it were, and here's the quote, as it is, we have some cute-looking hairy mice with no understanding of their physiology, behavior, etc., said Robin Lovell Badge, a geneticist at the Francis Crick Institute in London. It doesn't get them any closer to know if they would eventually be able to give an elephant useful mammoth-like traits. And we have learned little biology. So it's just a mouse with some special genes, says Stephen Reisenberg, a genome engineer at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, who was not involved in the work. So a lot of poo-pooing. But when this thing becomes the size of a mammoth and we can ride it to work, they'll rue the day that they said anything. The next article is over in the Law Nerd channel. A lawyer has been accused of ghosting a client and listing their Irish pub, or an Irish pub, as his address, according to an ethics referee. A Miami lawyer has been disbarred after an uncontested referee's report found that he filed a notice of appearance while suspended, abandoned a client, and put his address as a Florida bar. Not the Florida bar, a Florida bar. Deborah Cassens-Weiss put the article together. The Florida Supreme Court disbarred lawyer Daryl Bobby Fenton of Florida in a February 6th order that became effective this month, the Miami Herald reports in a story reprinted on, wait for it, AOL. Yeah, AOL still exists, folks. The address listed by Fenton is for the Old Dubliner Irish Pub and Kitchen in Miami, according to the Miami Herald. Wow. So he ran afoul of ethics rules when he filed a notice of appearance for a criminal defendant in November 2023 while on suspension for failing to fulfill obligations for continuing legal education, according to the November 2024 referees report. So something as simple as not getting continuing legal education. You have to get these CLEs periodically so that you can you have to justify that you are continuing to learn in the legal profession and you're not just kind of stagnating on the old information that you have and you're moving with the times. Defendant told the judge that he'd been unable to reach Fenton. The judge tried calling numbers listed on pleadings and with the bar, but was unable to contact the lawyer. The judge set a new hearing and notified Fenton in an email, but he didn't respond and didn't appear before the new court date. So the judge appointed a public defender for Fenton's client and referred him to the Florida bar, which was also unable to find that attorney. And the bar investigator did find a potential address, but Fenton had been evicted shortly before the investigator arrived at the property. So, according to the Miami Herald, the address was for the West Tower of River Landing Residences, which is a luxury high-rise, but his apparent new location was the Old Dubliner Irish Pub and Kitchen in Miami. Yep. I've heard about being a member of the bar, but that's a little different. Let's keep on moving, though. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Aberdeen restores the E's after admitting Aberdeen without the E's. Rebrand wasn't very clever without the E's. Har har. So the 200-year-old asset manager has added the E's back to its name after it was widely mocked. Aberdeen is now Aberdeen with the E's after the company's 2021 rebrand was ridiculed. It only took them nearly 5 years. The company's CEO said that the move would help in removing distractions and mark a new chapter. Pretty simple, straightforward kind of article here. It's over at businessinsider.com. Taryn Mohammed put the article together. Standard Life Aberdeen rebranded as ABRDN in 2021 under CEO Stephen Bird, and they spell their name with all the E's. And B-I-R-D is their last name, Bird. Saying it was part and parcel of being a modern, agile, digitally enabled brand. The decision sparked cackles at a straight-laced financial group seemingly trying to be cool and hip. Go home, Dad, you're drunk. The group's chief investment officer, Peter Branner, bemoaned the criticism of its shortened name as corporate bullying in an interview with Financial News last year. He derided the childish jokes and questioned whether those poking fun would do the same to a person. Well, a business shouldn't be perceived as a person ever. Yeah, it's a quasi-organization, even in terms of business existence and personhood, but according to apparently certain places, they have personhood. I understand certain reasons why, but anyway. Asset manager reported a 6% fall in adjusted net operating revenue last year to the sterling equivalent of $1.68 billion. Adjusted operating profit rose by 2% as Aberdeen reduced its adjusted operating costs by 7%. So, yeah, I mean, if it's a really big name, then I can see it, right? Federal Express changed their name to FedEx, and that saved millions of dollars in painting airplanes. If all you're doing is shortening it from Aberdeen to Aberdeen without the E's, you're removing, a third? Yeah, roughly a third of the letters in just that name. If you don't ever refer to it as Standard Life Aberdeen. It would probably be just call it Aberdeen, not Standard Life Aberdeen. That would probably be the better. But everybody knows it by Aberdeen, so it's so stupid. Anyway, for example, Weight Watchers rebranded in 2019 as WW after more than 50 years in business, and Dunkin' Donuts simply became Dunkin'. the same year. All right. I think that's more about the long term having to repaint stuff. And just, it was always called Dunkin'. No, I don't think people really referred to it as Dunkin' Donuts. And they definitely didn't remove all of the letters and just go by DD. Let's keep going though. The next article is over in the Mobile Channel. World's largest, oldest iceberg runs aground near Antarctic Island. South Georgia, I think, is what it crashed into, not the state. Behemoth A23A calved in 1986 and has been drifting around the Southern Ocean for, it says, the last 5 years. I don't know. That's not just 5 years. It's not 1991, folks. Anyway, Isaac Schultz over at Gizmodo.com put the article together. And they have a map of what this thing did. So, like, on the 20th of February, it was around the Scotia Sea is what it says. And by March 3rd, it had crashed into South Georgia, an island that's actually covered with ice. And 73 kilometers away is the edge of its ice pack. There is a little mass in there, but at any rate, I think it's pretty interesting. The berg got caught in a water vortex that made its path more predictable, but in 2024, the iceberg escaped the vortex and it seemed to be on a collision course with South Georgia. Now the object's 1,312-foot cliffs are resting south of the island and may slowly melt and break up on that site. From a scientific perspective, we are keen to see how the iceberg will affect the local ecosystem. Nutrients stirred up by the grounding and from its melt may boost food availability for the whole regional system, including for charismatic penguins and seals, is what it says. If that was a name, it would have been capitalized. I'm not quite sure what that amounts to. Charismatic. So Earth ice shelves have lost about 6,000 billion metric tons of their mass since 2000. Anthropogenic climate change is expediting the loss of the ice shelves, which has implications for ocean circulation, sea level rise, among other factors. So I guess we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll end up in Georgia itself. All right, and not the country, the state of Georgia here in the United States. Anyway, so this next article discusses why surgeries on Friday are riskier. A study released today, which is in the time machine today, and tomorrow it would be yesterday. It's timey stuff. Anyway, yeah, pre-weekend surgeries can be riskier than surgeries after the weekend, and it's because everybody's drinking. No, I don't know why, but we'll find out here, right? So Ed Cara over at Gizmodo.com put the article together because somebody talked about this article, this journal. So if you have a chance to plan your surgery, you might want to avoid Fridays. A study out this week shows that surgeries scheduled right before the weekend tend to be riskier than those done earlier in the week. Because somebody says, hold my beer in the surgical suite, I guess. I don't know. Researchers in the USA and Canada conducted the study, published Tuesday in the JAMA Network Open, which is not a golf tournament. Color me surprised. Analyzing data from nearly 500,000 people, they found the pre-weekend surgeries had a slightly greater risk of death, complications, and readmissions compared to post-weekend surgeries. That explains the watch that I still have next to my spleen. The findings suggest that hospitals can do more to keep their patients safe, such as making sure that their weekends are 4 days long and nobody schedules anything and on either of those edges. So no Thursday, no Friday, no Monday, no Tuesday, only Wednesday surgeries. So that isn't the first time that the study authors have looked into how the calendar might affect surgery. Last year, the team published a study examining whether surgeries performed on Friday the 13th fared worse than typical Fridays. Thankfully, for the superstitious crowd out there, the answer appeared to be no. But there have been other studies in the past suggesting a potential weekend effect on surgery. Anecdotally, some of the researchers themselves have observed patients' care during the weekend can sometimes be worse. To get to the bottom of the question, they did a deep dive into the medical records of over 400,000 residents in Ontario, Canada, who underwent common surgical procedures. So, all in all, pre-weekend surgeries had a 5% higher combined risk of death, complications, and readmissions in both the short and long term than post-weekend surgeries. But everything is pre-weekend if you try hard enough. All right. So they don't really say why, right? Other than it's the weekend, they want to get done with it, which kind of explains a couple of things around my world. Anyway, let's keep on going. The next article is over in Technology Today. Your smartwatch knows you're sick before you do, and it could stop the next pandemic. Smartwatches could be our secret weapon against pandemics, detecting infections before symptoms appear up to 90% accuracy. Research shows that acting on these early warnings by isolating even slightly could drastically reduce disease spread. But not if you're a sociopath. If you're a sociopath, then you show up to work or class or your neighborhood cookout or wherever, a PTA meeting. You just live your life and screw everybody else. It doesn't matter that they get sick as long as your convenience matters more than everybody else's inconvenience. Right? All right. Anyway, so the article is over at scitechdaily.com and Alto University, Aalto. It's AALTO, Alto University. This is an interesting screen. I don't think I've ever seen this. But I use a slightly different screen, I suppose. Anyway, researchers show that acting on these early warnings by isolating even slightly could drastically reduce disease spread. As this technology evolves, it could replace broad restrictions with targeted, effective responses. Whether it's COVID-19, the flu, or common cold, however, many diseases are most contagious before symptoms appear. Researchers show that 44% of COVID-19 infections were transmitted several days before the infected person felt sick. And many people are just carriers. They don't actually get that sick, but they can get other people sick. So how an early ping could flatten the curve, even at the lower end of compliance. If people receive and act on an early warning by self-isolating, the impact is significant. Even just a 66 to 75% reduction in social contacts soon after detection by smartwatches, keeping in mind that that's on par with what you'd normally do if you had cold symptoms, can lead to 40 to 65% decrease in disease transmission compared to someone isolating from the onset of symptoms. Because it isn't the symptoms. If you're symptomatic, then you have been infected prior to it and you are contagious. You could be spreading your ick wherever you go. So a smarter pandemic policy. The team of researchers is the first to take on real-world data from numerous peer-reviewed epidemiological, biological, and behavioral studies, drawing it together to mathematically model how infection spreads at a population level. Though this powerful combination of data and tech, Venisnerm foresees a future in which smartwatches change how we deal with pandemics at both the individual and policy levels. Yeah, you're going to have to get over sociopathy first, and that's a pretty big hurdle, particularly in today's climate. The next article, and the last one for the March 4th, 2025 Non Sequitur news, it's over in the Mobile Channel. Dozens found alive in metal containers after avalanche that killed 8 others. Thanks to some quick thinking, 46 construction workers were able to survive an avalanche and its path of destruction for multiple days. They found shelter in metal containers in the Himalayan mountains. Over the weekend, the construction site in India's Mana village was overtaken by a snow landslide that ultimately took the lives of 8 of the 54 workers. The numbers could have been much higher, however, if not for some keen resourcefulness. To survive the avalanche, workers barricaded themselves inside the containers, which had just enough oxygen to keep them alive before being rescued more than 2 days later. The article is over in Vice.com by Kyle Philippi. And yeah, so they found shelter in metal containers in the Himalayan mountains and survived an avalanche. Before the situation, there were alerts put out that suggested rain and snow could be an issue in the area. Drones, dogs, thermal imaging, cameras were all utilized to aid in the rescue, and the efforts were slowed due to the poor conditions that eventually, or really did include heavy snowfall, according to the Associated Press. So this is sourced from the Associated Press by way of the Times of India and maybe only some local representation there. But perhaps the most terrifying aspect of this ordeal is that they were all sleeping when the avalanche struck. So the 8 people probably would have survived if they would have been awake and gotten to the containers. Earlier warning is really where it's at. So that's again where smartwatches could come in handy. All right. Anyway, that is it. So we're going to jump into our metal container and survive the avalanche of landing back at the front page of ohmtown.com, where I am Mayor Watt. I run it. And if you want to go and hang out there and meet us here over on Twitch and YouTube, you can just come and hang out here. It's real easy. Twitch.tv/ohmtown or youtube.com/ohmtown. You can download all of the podcasts. If you go over to Twitch and type in !pod, it'll give you a list of all of the podcasts. !shows gives you all of the show names. There's a bunch of different shows. We have 7 different podcasts, 7 different shows that we do. At least Non Sequitur News is a daily, and then on Saturday we have 3 shows, and on Sunday we have 3 more shows, different shows, all in their own little niche. Anyway, I'm getting out of here, and I would take the AI with me, but they're already disconnected. So we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.